Camera Raw, along with Bridge, are applications that come with Photoshop Creative Cloud. Camera Raw and Bridge have come with Creative Cloud since, I believe, 5, CS5, maybe CS4, I can't remember. But they're both very useful in pre-editing images in Photoshop. A Photoshop artist or user takes advantage of the tools in RAW to pre-edit images before doing the deep pixel editing available in Photoshop. In short, Camera Raw is an intermediate step between downloading an image and editing it in Photoshop. Everything you do to an image in Camera Raw is non-destructive. That is, it doesn't change the original file, just the data that accompanies the image file. But given that it is non-destructive, it's still very powerful. Let's explore Camera Raw by opening a file in it. I have these 5 files that I've made in a collection for my raw demo right here. I'm going to start by how to open an image in Camera Raw. And you'll notice right here that I have 2 JPEG files, and then I have 3 Camera Raw files. If I double click on a Camera Raw file, it'll automatically launch the Camera Raw application. I'm just going to cancel out of this right now. And I'm going to try doing the same thing in with a JPEG, one of these JPEGs. So I'm going to double click on this. And notice when I double click on a JPEG, it opens the image in Photoshop. It doesn't use that intermediate step of Camera Raw. So I'm going to Control Alt Tab over back to Camera Raw. I'm sorry, to Bridge. And if I want to open up a JPEG in Camera Raw to edit it, I can just right click on it and say Open in Camera Raw. But I want to edit 2 images. So I'm going to take this image right here, this JPEG, that's me, and I'm going to control click on this image. Remember, control clicking is how you do non-consecutive selections. And with those 2 images selected, I'm going to right click. If you're on a Mac, you control click, and I'm going to choose Open in Camera Raw. And notice it opens both of those images in Camera Raw. And one of the reasons I chose this particular image is because it's shifted, the colors are shifted to the orange. If we look up here at the histogram, we notice that it's weighted towards the dark. This area is dark, this area is light. It has some lighter areas that are red and orange and yellow. But notice the blues and the purples and the whites are fairly dark. Well, we need to fix this, but as I'm looking at it, I'm also noticing it's so orange. It's yellow and orange, and I need to make that look better. And the way I handle that is I can go in here to white balance right here, and I can say I would like to just have it figure out what the automatic white balance should be. And when I do that, notice it shifts a lot of this stuff over. It's still too light. I mean, it's still too dark. It's underexposed. So I need to change that. But notice it says 2850 is the color temperature that makes this so that the white has a good balance in it. I'm going to show you another way to do this. So I'm going to go back to As Shot. That's the way it looked before. And I'm going to use this tool right here called the White Balance tool. And when I use the White Balance tool, I can choose something that is either black, white, or kind of a gray. And if I click on it, it's going to balance the image according to what color the white is in there. So I'm going to click on that because that's kind of white. And notice that put it at 2700. That's pretty close with what Raw thought it should be. I'm going to choose another spot or 2 here just to see if it changes at all. Notice that right there. I'm going to click on her black top right there, and that looks too orange, doesn't it? There's one other spot that I could check, maybe on the rim on the edge of that basketball hoop. And that's getting close. A lot of times Raw will, if you just use auto for the white balance, it will choose the correct white balance for the image. I still think, but now we need to move on to the next thing, which is the exposure. I could just choose to do auto exposure. Watch what happens when I click on it. You're going to see what happens to the image, but you're also going to, I want you to look up here at the histogram to see what happens. Notice how it made it all even, so you have darks down here and lights up here. Now, you wouldn't know this from looking at this image right here on this video, but this is purple. This should be purple right here. So we're still a little low. So, and I like this exposure. I agree with it. I think it lacks some contrast. So I'm going to increase the contrast a little bit. That makes the lights lighter and the darks darker. But I also would like to see some of these details. So I'm going to come down here as I adjust all these. I'm going to bring the shadows. I'm going to make them lighter. Notice how over here, as I move that shadow bar over, we can start seeing some of the detail in those bleachers. I'm going to move the blacks over a little bit also. Make those a little lighter. I'm going to come up here and do shadows again. And now we're seeing some of the detail back here, some of the color detail. We've also shifted a lot of this, a lot of the colors and the exposure here over into the light area from where it was when we first started out. Highlights I'm going to keep where they are. This is something where you just got to experiment and play with until you're happy with how it looks. Clarity makes, if we increase the clarity, it sharpens the pixels, so it looks. You can see the borders of parts in the image a lot better. By the way, any of these sliders, if you double click on the slider, it goes back to its default position. Vibrance adds saturation to some of the primary colors, especially the ones that are involved in skin color and then just primaries. So if I drag that vibrance over, notice how the primary colors and skin tones end up having more saturation. Sometimes this is good to do. If we just grab the saturation bar, move it over, it makes everything more saturated in the image. Vibrance is more selective. All right, so that's how I would adjust this particular image. I'm still not 100% happy with it. I'm going to make some adjustments in it in another video. Actually, I'm going to move ahead and adjust the temperature. I'm going to adjust the tint and basic look of an image. I think this still has too much yellow in it. So I'm going to skip over these two buttons right here, and I'm going to this HSL or grayscale tab. And I want some yellow to be desaturated in here. So I'm going to move that over, and it moves the yellows out. I also am going to go to luminance. Remember, that's the amount of black in it. I'm going to make it so the oranges are a little darker because I think she looks too pasty there. And I'm going to move the reds down just a little bit too, because skin tones are mostly reds and orange for Caucasian people. And since she's Caucasian, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave the other things alone. By the way, just in case you want to ever just make teeth whiter, often it is the fastest way to whiten teeth is just to go to luminance. In this tab right here, go to luminance, and then you move yellows over so the yellows are lighter, and that will brighten teeth. That's a really quick tip for you. Okay, now I'm going to go right here to this other picture of me, and I have some lighting issues with this. I have this fluorescent light behind my head, and then I have I'm pretty sure that a flash was used. Yeah, there's a flash that was used to light this. So I have fluorescent colors here. I have flash on my face. And I want to make this so the color balance looks okay, but it's still kind of dark. We can look at the histogram and see that there's nothing in this lighter area. So let's use this, using this image, let's go over here. Now, remember that this image is a JPEG image. And with the JPEG image, when we're looking at the CR2 image, it gave us a color temperature. But on that JPEG image, it doesn't give you the specific color temperature. It gives you a range though. So I'm going to grab this. I'm going to turn the color temperature up just a little bit, or I'm going to go to tell it to do an auto custom temperature. And notice how it made it way too cool. I don't mean cool like, hey, it's really cool. I mean, it made it cooler, that it turned the temperature down. I don't think that's good. I'm going to go back to as shot because I think that's actually a good color temperature, but I think the image is underexposed, so I'm just going to drag the exposure over a little bit, and I think that looks better. I'm going to add some contrast. Remember, look what happens to my orange hair when I move the contrast bar over. It makes it more orangey. So with hair like mine, it's easy to kind of mess up the image if you play with the contrast bar too much. I'm going to make the highlights a little lighter. I'm going to make the shadows a little lighter also, but I'm going to turn down the whites and I'm going to turn down the blacks. And then maybe I'll turn the blacks up just a little bit. That's all. Now, I didn't talk about clarity very much. If I turn clarity down, notice how it makes my skin a little fuzzier as I move it over. Overuse of this looks crappy, but a careful use of this can look pretty good. It can smooth out small blemishes and wrinkles in the skin, and it's really handy to have. I'm going to also go to right to this button, the HSL Grayscale button, and I also think there's too much yellow in this, so I'm going to once again go to saturation, and I'm going to desaturate the yellows in this image. It's going to make my hair a little less orangey. I'm going to turn down in luminance, I'm going to turn down the oranges a little bit to give myself a little better tan. And I'm a little happier that I don't have as much of the yellow and orange around here from that the difference between the flash and the fluorescent light. All right, so what we've done here now is we've adjusted the temperature, tint, and basic look of an image, and before that I showed you how to open an image in Camera Raw. The next lesson I'm going to show you how to edit blemishes, and I've already shown you how to smooth skin in Camera Raw, but I'll go into a little more detail on that in the next one.